Last December, I stood before my Toastmasters Club and attempted to share my story about scarves and tiaras, particularly the tiara part and how I would wear it in public and what it symbolizes, and the healing and the journey and reclamation of self. And I got just a little bit into my story when I suddenly lost all my words. I couldn't see them anymore. What I could see was what had happened in 1997 that same week. I was trying to share a very hard but good story during a very hard week. And I had no idea that I was going to trigger myself. Today I want to talk about triggers really quickly with you because they're often misunderstood. And these days when people hear trigger warning, they think it to mean more along the lines of, oh, this might make you angry, so I'm going to let you know I'm going to talk about something that makes you angry. But not in the terms of something that could remind you of something that hurts, of a time in your life that was painful. For me, triggers often can come as a smell. Smell is one of the biggest triggers for me. I am transported through time when I smell certain colognes, when certain people have a certain smell. Sometimes it's a good transport. Sometimes it's a good travel back to time, to a good year, or gosh, I remember when that happened. It was so amazing. But more often than not, it is not a good trip. It is a hurtling through time to something that I would rather not think about. But I let myself go there because I need to remember, because I am writing the book, and because I need to always be mindful of where I've been and how far I've come and where I'm going. And so I try to keep track of these triggers. And what I did last December was triggering in the way of, I was speaking of a place from healing, and it during a very painful time, during a very painful week. And that week is never good for me. And I was just taking a gamble. Maybe this will work. Maybe I can do this. And last year I couldn't. Maybe this year I can. Every year is a little bit different for me. Sometimes I get through it just fine, and sometimes I see it coming from a mile away and I dread it. Triggers for most people come in something that is related to what they've been through. It could be a gunshot. It could be the color of a car. It could be seeing an old Rambler drive by and just flash, 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 and you are right there in that moment again, transported through time. Here's the problem with triggers, is that we don't know when they're coming. Sometimes we may be giving a speech, as I was, and know that I'm playing around in a tricky area where it could happen. But sometimes we don't know where they're coming from. When I was in college several years ago, I had a teacher who would pace past each student when she was lecturing. And man, I was growing to hate this teacher, and I mean loathe going to her class. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out why. It really wasn't until I went to counseling later that year, that spring, that I realized she smelled like my mom. The scent of my mom. There was nothing this teacher had done wrong. She just smelled like my mom. And it was digging at a place in my heart that I couldn't put my finger on, and yet it hurt so badly. So when people talk about triggers and something being triggering to them, be mindful of how that affects them. There I was standing in front of my club, shaking, crying. And I should have been embarrassed, but I've come a long way, baby. And so even though in the moment I felt a little, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, I also was able to go back into that room after the whole event of standing in the hallway and shaking and saying, I can't give this speech right now. I can't give this speech right now. And walk back in and explain just briefly what happened. And I have to tell you, I knew that it was bad timing and I shouldn't have done it, but I wanted to try. But I did give that speech earlier this year. And so a trigger isn't meant to keep you down, and don't let it be that. Talking about triggers is not permission to let something like that keep you down. Talking about triggers is saying, hey, they happen and they're not fun, but we get them and we try to move past them. But when you surround yourself with people who care about you and understand and at least want to see you through it, you can get past them faster. So I'm going to be writing more about triggers this month, but I just wanted to do a quick video because it means so much to me to know that I can be triggered and I can have a moment and then I can go again. And maybe not immediately, maybe not the next week, and it took me months to go back and give that speech again. But I did it, and I didn't let all those painful memories keep me from doing so. So that's how I want to encourage you today. If you are somebody who has found themselves being triggered by different events in your life and you're feeling they are debilitating and you don't want to try again, I get that. I totally do. But you can, and we're going to talk about that. And if you're someone who doesn't understand, your friend, your family member who tells you, oh my gosh, that smell is just hurting me so badly, and they don't, you're not really, they can't explain it and you're not really sure how, understand that it could be that they're being triggered to something painful and they just can't figure it out, like with my teacher. So until next time, when I'm going to talk about PTSD very briefly, I just want you to be aware that it's okay and we're going to get through this together. Join me at scarsandtiaras.com. Thank you.